Today on Steelers Talk, I'm going to be breaking down why the Pittsburgh Steelers are going to Russell Wilson this week against the New York Jets, despite starting this year off 4-2, and why I think that it's the correct decision for the Pittsburgh Steelers at this juncture in the 2024 season at the quarterback position. Now, before we get into it today, it's going to be a doozy, so stick with me here. It's going to be a longer one today. Make sure you guys click that thumbs up icon right now if you hope that Russ succeeds. If you are a fan of the Pittsburgh Steelers and you want to see Russell Wilson have success with this year's football club, make sure you guys click that thumbs up icon right now and let's ride. Now, before we can talk about Russ here, man, I really do think we have to give Justin Fields his due credit because he did exactly what this Steelers team asked him to do when they asked him to start this season in the first 6 games of the year as this team's backup quarterback. You take a look at the stats through the first 4 weeks or the first 6 weeks of the year, I should say. 66.3 completion percentage, very, very respectable. Over 220 yards per game, also very respectable. And then 10 touchdowns, 5 of those being rushing, which is 1 turnover for him, is definitely numbers that the Steelers are very happy with here, sitting at 4-2 as well with him as their starting quarterback. And like I said, guys, Justin Fields did his job as this team's backup quarterback. And honestly, man, 4-2 is about as good as any backup quarterback could do and what you can ask from your backup to start off a season. So great job, and I tip my cap to Justin Fields for doing what he did to help this team get off to a good start this season. But with that being said, Justin Fields' lack of nuance and effectiveness and efficiency as a passer, in my opinion, has held this offense back, and I do think that it is time to give Russell Wilson a shot to see if he can do any better as the starting quarterback of the Pittsburgh Steelers. You take a look at just the past 2 weeks for Justin Fields, and it's been easily his 2 worst performances of the season, capped off with really a lucky and kind of inefficient performance against the Raiders. I know that they had great field position, and that's why they scored a couple touchdowns, and they were in position to do some really good things there, but 56.8% completion percentage, less than 200 yards per game over these last 2, 4 touchdowns and no turnovers, but he had multiple. I charted 6 turnover-worthy plays during these last 2 games, so he hasn't exactly been protecting the football over these last 2. And, you know, if you don't believe me, you can just believe Justin Fields, who spoke to the media earlier this week, and this is what he had to say about his play through the first 6 weeks. I don't think I played good enough to start, if I'm being real with you. If I'm being real with myself, I think if I did play well enough, I don't think there would be any sort of who should be playing. And listen, man, that answer from Justin Fields, taking a real hard look at himself in the mirror and looking at the way that he has played these first 6 weeks and being able to admit, yeah, man, like I haven't played well enough as a passer to lock up this job. It takes a ton of maturity, humility, and grace. And listen, man, like for a 25-year-old to give that kind of answer, it just shows that he is a high-quality person. And he's such a great culture guy to have here in Pittsburgh. And I love that he is a part of this football team as this team's backup quarterback. He gives you a great plan B option if Russell Wilson doesn't work out now. But at the end of the day, I do think that Russ is the guy for the Pittsburgh Steelers. He was always the guy that the Steelers wanted to put in at QB1 ever since they signed him in free agency. But that doesn't mean that we don't love having Justin Fields here in Pittsburgh. So show Justin Fields some love, man. Give him his flowers. He did a good job sitting at 4-2 after those first 6 weeks. So spam those 2s down there in the comment section if you want to show your appreciation and show some love to Justin Fields right here on Steelers Talk. But Jack, Fields didn't have any help. How could you say that he's not a good quarterback when the wide receiver room is so bad and the offensive line is so bad? Well, let's address those concerns right now on the show, okay? Admittedly, Van Jefferson has been absolute garbage this season, all right? I want to make that abundantly clear. Van Jefferson, I was willing to give him a shot, all right? You know, they obviously saw something in him when they brought him in so early in free agency, but he has come in and he has created zero separation on film. He is pretty much a parking cone out there, just like Allen Robinson was. I'm pretty sure number 11 is a cursed number for wide receivers in a Pittsburgh Steelers uniform at this point. I think it's that bad. But the idea that Justin Fields has had no help or has no receivers and no weapons to utilize, I think is a little bit overbearing. I think it's wrong because George Pickens, he does have a little bit of a drop issue this year, but let's make it clear, man. He's still very good and very talented, okay? Calvin Austin III on film is getting open consistently, but Justin Fields did not get him the ball, all right? That is on Justin Fields. In my opinion, that is not on Calvin Austin III. He's been awesome. And Pat Freiermuth has still been a reliable short and intermediate threat for this offense. He's getting open relatively frequently as well. And then also Justin has two reliable receiving backs in Najee Harris and Jaylen Warren to utilize, okay? So I just don't think that it is the case that the Pittsburgh Steelers just have a completely empty cupboard when it comes to offensive weaponry. We just broke down my thoughts on those guys. Van Jefferson has admittedly been terrible, but everybody else I think has been doing their job adequately. And honestly, man, I think Justin Fields' lack of ability to see the field has made this group of weapons look worse than what they actually are. But Jack, I've seen these charts on Steelers Twitter where it looks like Justin Fields doesn't have any separation to work with, but he's super accurate. What does this mean? And then also this one as well. I'm sure you've seen this one as well, guys, where you look at this chart of wide receivers and the separation that they are creating, and all of the Steelers receivers are in the bottom quadrant. What's going on, Jack? Why are you saying this about Calvin Austin III if this chart shows me that Calvin isn't getting open on film? And these separation metrics, man, they're a bit tricky. And I can't get into the minutia of it, but really what it boils down to here is that it only measures separation at the catch point. All right, it doesn't take every single route that these receivers run and measure separation. It's only on the passes that are thrown to them. Okay, so the issues with that, number one, it doesn't count if the wide receiver doesn't get the ball. So if you completely cook a guy and the quarterback doesn't throw you the ball, it doesn't show up on your separation numbers. To me, that makes zero sense, okay? And then number two, if the quarterback is late with his time in getting you the football, it doesn't matter if you run a great route and create a bunch of separation. The DB is going to close in, and the separation is going to be lower, and that's not even on the receiver. That's on the quarterback for being late to throw the football. So listen, man, when it comes to a guy like Calvin Austin III, trust me, as somebody that has watched every single offensive snap on film for this football team this year, Calvin Austin III is freaking great as a route runner, man. He's getting open multiple times every single game, and lo and behold, Justin Fields doesn't throw him the football, man. So this is somebody that I think that the Steelers are really going to try to unlock with Russell Wilson coming in right now. And make no mistake, Calvin Austin III has been a freaking beast this season as a route runner, and he's constantly getting open. But Jack, Russell Wilson had better receivers in Denver, right? Well, let's take a look at what Russell Wilson had to work with in Denver, okay? Because right now, you look at this. Courtland Sutton is a decent receiver, all right? In my opinion, he's a good wide receiver too. He was his top option. Then he had Jerry Jeudy as his number 2 receiver, one of the highest drop rate receivers over the last several seasons. Marvin Mims Jr. was a rookie last year as his number 3 guy. Brandon Johnson was decent depth, I guess, but then his tight end was Adam Troutman. Okay, so I don't want to hear anybody say, "Oh, like Russ had good weapons last year and he was bad." Like that just doesn't make sense, man. And honestly, I'm taking Pittsburgh's weapons over what Russell Wilson had last year, but that's just me. But Jack, this offensive line sucks. How can Russell Wilson survive behind this offensive line? Well, let's take a look at the PFF grading here in terms of the pass block grades for the guys that have been blocking the most for Justin Fields this season. Dan Moore Jr. is ranking almost in the top 20 among offensive tackles this year with a 72.2. Isaac Seumalo is ranking within the top 15 in the 2 games that he has played. Zach Frazier has been a top 5 center. Now, obviously, he's hurt now, but he was playing most of the time when Fields was in there. Then Mason McCormick has been very solid in his time as the right guard of this team. And then Broderick Jones has been the one guy that you can point to and say he has been legitimately bad in both phases for the entire season. Okay, so I look at this offensive line. It's pretty solid outside of Broderick Jones. But the pressure rate is 38.0, and I keep seeing people post this on Steelers Twitter like it somehow proves that this is a bad offensive line. Now, it looks bad here because it's top 5 in the National Football League in terms of the highest pressure rates. But Justin Fields is partly to blame for this number because he holds onto the ball for over 3 seconds per drop back. All right, that is the 4th highest in the National Football League, so it makes sense. 4th highest average time to throw, fifth highest pressure rate. So it's pretty much commensurate, all right? So that's not because, so the pressure rate isn't exactly because the offensive line is being so bad. It's partly because the offensive line is losing and partly because Justin Fields holds on to the ball for too long. And the slow processing is something that we've seen from him his entire career. He also has inconsistent vision, missing open receivers down the field like Calvin Austin III multiple times a game. And then also the lack of pocket presence, his lack of ability to feel pressure, shift in the pocket, step up at just the right moment to create more time is definitely lacking. So I think that all three of those things make these receivers and this offensive line look worse than what they actually are, all right? And I just think that that's the case. But Jack, Russ can't survive behind the offensive line, right? This offensive line is going to give up so much pressure, and he's going to give up so many sacks, and this offense is just not going to be able to do anything. Well, last year, Russell Wilson had a 43.1 pressure rate when he was with the Denver Broncos, all right, with an average time to throw of 3.06. Now you take a look at what Justin Fields has been doing with pretty much the same exact average time to throw. It's 5 points lower than what Russell Wilson had to deal with last year. And then you look at the stats, okay, this is the important part. Look at the stats. They're very similar. All right, so Russell Wilson had to deal with a higher pressure rate than Justin Fields has had to deal with this season, yet their completion percentages are relatively the same. Same thing with the yards per game. Touchdown percentage, and that includes the rushing touchdowns, by the way, pretty darn similar as well. Same thing with the sack percentage. So I keep hearing Russell Wilson can't survive behind this Steelers offensive line. He's going to get sacked too many times. Well, I mean, he faced more pressure last year, and he's putting up similar numbers in that Broncos offense to what Justin Fields has already done in a Pittsburgh Steelers uniform. And let's just take a look at the pressure numbers specifically. When these two guys are under pressure, now Fields has been a little bit more aggressive this year, throwing the ball down the field. But, I mean, Russ, the accuracy numbers, all these different things, the yards per attempt, the positive play percentage, it's higher than Justin Fields. Now, I actually see here that Fields' yards per attempt are slightly higher, but they're very, very commensurate. Okay, so I just think that this narrative that Russell Wilson is going to completely crumble behind this offensive line is just hogwash, and I think the numbers definitely bear that out. But Jack, doesn't Russ take a ton of sacks? The answer to that question is yes, and like Justin Fields, Russell Wilson has a bit of a slow mental process. He likes to throw the ball down the field, and he's always hunting for that big play. So he does hold on to the ball for a long time, and that could lead to some sacks here in Pittsburgh, but his ability to feel pressure is better than Justin Fields. I think that, when you look at the glory days back with Russell Wilson, he had some of the best pocket presence of any quarterback in the league. He still has that pocket presence. It's just that he takes a long time to get rid of the football, okay? But Jack, what about Justin Fields' legs? Don't they provide all this dynamic rushing ability that completely saves this Pittsburgh Steelers offense from itself? Well, yes, I do think that to have an honest conversation here, you have to acknowledge that Justin Fields' legs are legit, man. And, Russ is just not quite as good in that department. However, I don't think that Russ is completely immobile as a rushing threat. People talk about Russell Wilson like he is just completely a statue in the pocket that can't move whatsoever. But you take a look at his rushing numbers in 2023, and they're pretty decent, man. The 341 rush yards just last season. So that's not earlier in his career. That's just last year at the Broncos, and that was top 10 in the National Football League. So listen, man, is he as dynamic as Justin Fields is in this department? No, not by a long shot, but I think he moves better in the pocket. I think he feels pressure better, and he can still pick up yards with his legs when he needs to. And, make no mistake, Russ needs to make up for this kind of differential, right? Because you're losing Justin Fields' ability to bail the team out with his legs to pick up first downs. Russ needs to make up for that with his arm and then some if he wants to be this team's QB1 for the foreseeable future. So coming up here on Steelers Talk, I got 6 ways I think the Pittsburgh Steelers may see Russell Wilson as an upgrade over Justin Fields. So before I get into those 6 traits and those 6 upgrades that Russ may provide, let's have a word from our sponsor here at Prize Picks, which is the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. And unlike other apps, on Prize Picks, it's just you against the numbers. You can now win up to 100 times your money on Prize Picks with as little as 4 correct picks, and Prize Picks puts its members first, so all withdrawals are fast, safe, and secure. When my picks hit, I can get my money in as quick as 15 minutes. Sign up today and get $50 instantly when you just play $5. You don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. Prize Picks also offers weekly promotions that can help lead the big payouts, like Anthony Edwards just needs to score 1 point for that square to win. So you guys take a look here at my prize picks projections for this weekend's college football slate. I'm going to take the more on the pass yards for Quinn Ewers. I'm going to take the more on Nico. I'm not even going to try to say his last name right now. Coop definitely screwed me on that one. His passing yards, and then I'm going to take the more on Evan Stewart's receiving yards for the Oregon Ducks this weekend. You guys can download the Prize Picks app today and take advantage of their great deals and use code CLNS and get $50 instantly when you play just $5. That's code CLNS on Prize Picks to get $50 instantly when you just play $5. You don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. Prize Picks, run your game. So like I said, guys, I think there's 6 areas that I think the Pittsburgh Steelers are hoping Russell Wilson is an upgrade over Justin Fields. And so here are the potential improvements and the potential upgrades here for Pittsburgh. In the pocket, throwing the ball down the field, under pressure, play action, and then ball protection, and then also playoff experience. So let's break these down one by one, starting with in the pocket here. Okay, so let's compare the numbers from last season from Russ to the first 6 games for Justin Fields within the pocket. Okay, Fields is throwing the ball slightly more down the field, but you look at the accuracy numbers, completion percentage, on-target percentage, and yards per attempt, all higher for Russell Wilson. Not to mention the positive play percentage is also higher, so they're hoping Russ, from within the pocket and within structure, can get the ball out quicker and get the ball to open receivers. Then we take a look at throwing the ball down the field here. Now you look at the play percentage. That means the amount of throws, the percentage of throws that end up going 20 or more yards down the field. Okay, so pretty commensurate there with about 25% or so. But then once again, you look at the accuracy numbers, higher completion percentage, higher catchable ball percentage for Russell Wilson, not to mention a higher yards per attempt. So Russell Wilson was more efficient than Justin Fields throwing the ball down the field last year than Fields has been so far this year. Then we can take a look at the pressure numbers once again, and we see that once again this Russell Wilson can survive under pressure. All right, it's not like he's going to completely crumble when there's pressure in his face. I think he does a good job feeling that pressure out, moving around in the pocket like he always has in his entire NFL career, and he's still relatively accurate when faced with that pressure. But I think of one of the big ones here, and one area that I think that the Steelers are really hoping that they're going to get a big upgrade with Russell Wilson here is in the play action game. You guys take a look at play action stats from last year's Russ versus this year's Fields, and you guys can see a big change in average depth of target. Russell Wilson really targeted down the field. And then even the accuracy numbers, he's targeting the ball almost 3 more yards down the field, and his accuracy numbers are better than Justin Fields off of play action this year. The yards per attempt much higher as well, and same thing with the positive play percentage. So they're certainly hoping that Russell Wilson provides a little bit more pop in the play action passing game. And honestly, this has been a big downside to Justin Fields' first 6 games as a Steeler. And for me, man, I'm expecting to see Russ play in the shotgun quite a bit because this is where he's comfortable. He's not super comfortable under center. He's a lot more comfortable with the play action shots from shotgun. He did that so much in Seattle with DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett, and it was a success last year with the Denver Broncos as well. You take a look at his splits here from shotgun versus under center when it comes to the play action game. You guys can see big jump in terms of pushing the ball down the field from shotgun. And not only that, guys, but he's also more accurate when he's from shotgun, pushing the ball down the field. So I definitely think when we look at Russell Wilson, what he brings here, I'm expecting to see a lot of shotgun. I'm expecting to see a lot of empty. Those are the worlds where Russ is more comfortable in because he is a smaller type of quarterback. But I do expect to see a lot more play action, deep shots being hit with Russell Wilson under center for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Then we take a look at the turnovers here and how this could be an upgrade for the Pittsburgh Steelers this year. You might be saying, Jack, Justin Fields only has 1 turnover. Well, we take a look here of interceptions plus fumbles since Justin Fields entered the league. And you guys can see these guys have played pretty similar amount of games, but Russell Wilson has significantly less interceptions and fumbles than Justin Fields, who currently sits at 75 at this point in his career, man, which is just astronomical. And you know, that's just not what you want to see. And then when it comes to Russ and how he protects the football, man, he's one of the best of all time. He's 10th all time in interception percentage, so he protects the football at an all-time rate. Also, you look at the touchdown to interception ratio. It's the 3rd best in NFL history, man. 334 touchdowns to only 106 interceptions. You know, and it's just incredible to see. Throughout his career, his ability to protect the football, but also push it down the field 4 scores. The only 2 quarterbacks in NFL history with a higher touchdown to interception ratio, a couple guys named Patrick Mahomes and Aaron Rodgers. But Jack, Fields only has 1 turnover. He's done a great job protecting the football. Well, here's the thing, man. I've charted 7 turnover-worthy plays in Fields' last 3 games, 6 of those coming in the last 2 weeks. So no, he has not been protecting the football. He's just been getting extremely fortunate that like either it's a penalty, a dropped interception, or the Steelers pick up his fumble. And speaking of fumbles, he has 6 of them this year. That leads the entire National Football League right now. So he is definitely putting that ball in harm's way at times. It's just that the Pittsburgh Steelers have been extremely fortunate to not have those turnover-worthy plays turning to actual turnovers. And eventually, if you keep Fields in the lineup, that's going to catch up with you, man, and it's not going to be pretty for the Pittsburgh Steelers. So Russ does a better job at protecting the football. Then there's the playoff experience, man. As you guys can see in the picture next to me, Russell Wilson has won a Super Bowl. He has been to the playoffs numerous times. He has been on that big stage, and if he makes it with the Pittsburgh Steelers, he's not going to be afraid of that big moment. Now, I'm not necessarily saying Justin would be afraid of that moment. But listen, man, the Pittsburgh Steelers are trying to win a Super Bowl right now. Whether or not you think they can do that with Russell Wilson or not is not up for discussion. The Steelers feel like they can do it, so that's where their thinking is right now. And with Russell Wilson, they understand that his playoff experience matters because first-time playoff quarterbacks almost never, ever win playoff games, and they never, ever, ever have won a championship. All right, and it just doesn't happen. First-time playoff quarterbacks, that would be Justin Fields for the Steelers this year. If you're looking to win playoff games, if you're looking to make a deep run into the playoffs, history would not be on the side of Justin Fields. It would be more on the side if Russell Wilson is the guy under center for the Pittsburgh Steelers this year. But experience aside, I think that Russell Wilson may provide a better chance to win in the playoffs than Justin Fields, because to win in the postseason, you have to be able to beat teams consistently through the air. And Justin Fields just hasn't been able to do that at this point. And if the Steelers want to be a legit title contender this year, I think they at least have to try and see if Russell Wilson can do that. Mike Tomlin gave us a little bit of a glimpse into his mind as to whether or not he thinks Justin Fields can turn this offense to great. And it doesn't sound positive here. It says Justin has been really good. We've been really good at times, but not to be confused as great. This is a competitive league. We're trying to position ourselves to be that team. So here's the deal, man. I can't guarantee you that Russell Wilson is going to light it up or that he is going to be a great quarterback for this offense or that this offense will be great with him as their quarterback. But I think at this point, you know what you have in Justin Fields, and the passing game isn't working the way that you want it to. So you at least have to try and see if Russell Wilson can do it. And then if he can't, you just turn back to Fields, okay? But to be clear, I want to make this abundantly clear, okay? I do not think Fields should just be straight up benched. I do think he should have a role within this Steelers offense because, like many of the Fields people that advocate for him say, his legs are a legitimate weapon that this team needs to utilize. All right, so I'm talking short yardage situations, 3rd and 1 and 4th and 1 type situations. Get him out on there and, make him that push quarterback, make him another rushing threat that the defense has to worry about. Also, load red zone. There's a reason why Fields has 5 rushing touchdowns this year. It's because he's a weapon down there. So once you get inside the 5, I would personally put Justin Fields under center and, make the defense worry about him as well. And then also in 4-minute drill, if the defense knows you have to run the football to try to bleed clock, I think Justin Fields is the guy you should have out there because that's another rusher that they have to account for. Now listen, man, like I said, you have to use his legs because they are a weapon. And, if they completely bench him and if they don't play him at all, I do think that would be a mistake by Mike Tomlin and Arthur Smith. Now, it does sound like that they're going to use him, which is what they should do. But I just wanted to get it out there that Fields should absolutely have a role in the Steelers offense, even though he isn't the full-time QB1. But Jack, benching him is going to completely ruin Justin Fields' confidence. I hear this all the time on Steelers Twitter, and I completely disagree with it, man. I have never seen, or at least very rarely do you see, a young man like Justin Fields who is as level-headed as he is at this point in his life, just 25 years old, and he's handling this situation with such maturity and grace. And I think that he's going to be just fine, man, and he's going to stay ready because he understands that if Russell Wilson doesn't get the job done here, Steelers start losing football games, he's going to have another shot to be this team's starting quarterback and potentially earn a status as this team's franchise quarterback and get another big contract with this football team. Now, with that being said, I think if Russ struggles and, the next 2 weeks, and, you lose to the Jets and you somehow lose to the Giants, both games at home in front of a national audience, I think heading into the bye, this team's going to give Justin Fields another shot down the stretch here. And if Russ proves that he is not the best option for this team and Justin Fields is, he's going to get another shot here. So if you're a Justin Fields advocate, what I would say is get behind Russell Wilson, cheer for the team, and listen, man, it's not over yet. Justin Fields could still get another shot. So predict it for me down there in the comments section. Will Russell Wilson be QB1 5 weeks from now? Predict it for me. Give me a yes or a no down there in the comments section. For me, I think he will be. Now make sure you guys click that subscribe button if you haven't already. I really do appreciate you guys sticking with me here for this behemoth of a show. It's one of the most in-depth videos we have ever done here at Steelers Talk. So if you're a real one and made it to the end of today's show, make sure you click that subscribe button right now.